Thanks for joining us for another episode of Anchors Away, an opportunity for us to be anchors away from our traditional roles where we sit and discuss things in a newscast or present them in a newscast, kind of talk about topics that we've been talking about. Perhaps you've been talking about them. Panel today, we're joined by a special guest on the end, Kevin Kelly from Fox 16. Kevin, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Mallory Hardin and Ashley Ketz are here. Brought Kevin in for a specific reason because October is Anti-Bullying Month. And Kevin, you've been spearheading the last couple of years a major anti-bullying campaign over at Fox 16 that we cover as much as we can. Tell us about it.
It's hard to believe. It's been five years since I started.
And this is something kind of that started out pretty small.
Yeah.
And now it's taken on a life of its own.
Well, as all of you know, I mean, 5 years ago, bullying really kind of was thrown into the national spotlight with not just stories here in the state of Arkansas, but across the nation. And personally, I saw kind of a trend where we were consistently, we as media, were covering the problem, but we weren't talking enough about the solution. Right. And I knew it was a problem here in the state of Arkansas, so I figured, you know what, let's as a station, start addressing this. And I started talking to students. I kind of walked into it blind. I really didn't know how I was going to approach it.
Which is interesting because I think nationally a lot of people don't. Educators, law enforcement, and parents don't know how to approach it. So you
and that's sadly still the case, Bob. I mean, it really is, because in the 5 years I've been doing this, the stories that I hear from these young kids bring tears to my eyes. And that drives me even more. Because it tells me that there's still so much more that needs to be done.
What are some of the things that you hear?
I was doing my presentation probably about 8 months ago at a school, and in the middle of my presentation I looked over to my left and I saw a 10-year-old boy crying. And I was like, oh my goodness, you know, what did I say? Did I do something to upset him? Fortunately, a teacher was over there consoling him, and I continued with my program, ended it. And then I went up to him afterwards. And one of my messages to these kids is, I don't know you, I don't know your name, I don't know how you're doing in school, I don't know anything about you, but the reason I'm here is because I care about each and every one of you. Yeah. And he remembered that, and I said, are you comfortable talking with me? And he said, sure. So we sat down, just the two of us in this cafeteria. I said, you can trust me, tell me what's going on. And he has tears rolling down his face. And he said, my sister committed suicide. Wow. And I'm like lost. And then he says, and my aunt burned down our house 2 months ago. And the tears are still flowing. And I'm constantly being bullied here at school. People are making fun of the way I talk. People are making fun of the clothes I wear. And then he goes, and I'm thinking about taking my life. Now this is a 10-year-old boy.
A child.
And I'm not the expert here. And he's telling me just unbelievable information. Now, fortunately, his teachers, the counselors, the principal were all aware of his situation. I walked him back to his class, and I gave the teacher my business card. And I said, if he's comfortable and his parents approve, I'd be more than happy to just talk to him. And he's called me, he's emailed me. We've had dialogue, and I'm happy to say he's doing so much better.
Thank goodness.
But that's just one kid. Think about all the other kids who are so quiet and have retreated and don't know where to go, don't know who to trust, don't know who to talk to. I mean,
and go to the extreme.
Oh my goodness. All that he's gone through, that is a lot for a 10-year-old boy to go through, on top of going to school and kids being mean. Just, I can't imagine. And I'm so thankful he's doing better.
Yeah, and another message I tell these kids is, you know, especially because there are bullies out there that are hearing my message. I'm like, do you think that a bully knows anything about this young child's background or what's going on outside of school? Absolutely not. You know,
the things they're picking on him for are so minor compared to the big issues that he's facing, adult issues.
And bullies usually do that because it makes themselves feel better.
I was going to say, do you ever talk to the bullies? Or kids who say, you know, hey, I was a bully and then I realized.
I asked that specific question. I said, how many of us have been bullied? And I raised my hand. I was bullied when I was younger. And then I say, okay, now listen to this next question very carefully. And be honest. How many of you have bullied someone else? And I'm guilty. I'm guilty. And, you know, and then I say, you know, for those of you who just raised your hand, thank you for being honest. And then I have to continue the conversation. But I haven't spoken specifically to an individual who said, you know what, I'm a bully and I'm proud of it, or I'm still doing it. You know, if I can get through to one kid.
How many kids have signed the pledge? You have that at the end, right?
I would say in the 5 years, I've probably been to close to 200 different schools and have probably addressed 60, 70,000 kids.
Wow.
And I'm already booked this month. I'm booked November and December already.
So what is the program like? You go in, you talk, they all sign a pledge. Kind of talk us through what that program is.
I start off just by saying, you know what, I'm here. I'm Kevin Kelly. You might know me from Fox 16 News, but let me tell you a little bit about my background. I tell them where I grew up and that I was interested in soccer and that I tried to become pro and that didn't work out, that I worked in Hollywood on movies, and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, they freak out. I said, but none of that matters. I said, what's the coolest thing to me is being here in front of you right here, right now.
Yeah.
And then I get into the meat of the presentation, if you will, of.
And I think what's important too, and this is kind of something that, and we talked about it before, when I was younger and hung out with some kids who had a tendency to bully other kids, and one particular day, there was this kid who was walking down the street, and I was with some of these friends, and these guys went out and started bullying this kid. Didn't like him because of his background, because of you know, his family situation. Throw rocks at him, you know, get out of here, that kind of stuff. And all he wanted to do was belong. You know, and I remember, you know, and I hated the way my friends behaved, you know, granted I was with them. And went home that night, told my dad what had happened, and, you know, the first thing he asked me, he goes, well, what did you do? And I said, well, Dad, I didn't do anything. I wasn't part of it, I didn't do anything. And he said, you didn't do anything? Said, that's the worst thing you could have done. Yeah. You should have stepped up and walked with that kid and told your other buddies to take a hike. You know, so I think, and the next day when that happened, I told these guys, I said, hey, you're all a bunch of screwballs, and I walked home with this kid, and we're best friends to this day.
Interesting that you recall that story.
Yeah,
even now.
Well, he's one of my best friends, you know, and he still lives in New York, but it's complacency, and I think your program is key in getting kids out of the complacency, saying, I'm not going to walk by someone who's getting bullied in the hallway at school.
Step up.
Step up, yeah, and stop bullying, and just be a friend of someone, and to bullies out there too. I mean, if you're thinking that you're being popular, or you're being a tough guy, or you're being a popular girl by bullying or putting someone else down, you're damaging yourself, and you're not getting away with anything. You know, you're not going to advance yourself at all. And if it is something that makes you feel better, well, then you need to talk to somebody yourself.
Right.
Because that's just
there are underlying factors.
It's a lot easier to go through life, and you can make yourself a lot happier by being nice to somebody. And something too, and a lot of guys say this too, girls can be a lot meaner than guys.
You know,
and I have a daughter, Kevin, you have a daughter.
Yes.
And
it can be in the text messaging, it can be in, we pass notes and, you know, in school.
I know that's
social media, you know, has
anonymous
now taken
bullies.
over the nasty notes and things like that. And you guys see that on social media. I mean, it's a whole nother level.
It can be such a tough time when you're a preteen. You don't know who exactly you are yet. I'm telling you, girls, I feel like girls today don't have the awkward faces that we had when we were kids. They figured it out a little bit better, but there's that awkward phase, and you need support, and you need strong, sweet girls around you. And to hear about, you know, some of the bullying and meanness that goes on among girls is heartbreaking. And we both have little girls who are young, little, and I hope and pray that it's better. And that's why I'm so thankful it's people like you making a difference.
I hope so. And my suggestion to the two of you having younger daughters, and even, you know, people out there who have younger daughters, is the critical time when it comes to bullying and social media is middle school. That is the most damaging period because of the cell phones and social media.
Usually that's when they're first getting their hands on one. And
if you're not diving into your son or your daughter's phone, and I mean diving into it, digging deep, because kids are smart, they know how to hide stuff. But as a parent, if you're not diving into it and digging into it, you will. Odds are you might not know truly what's going on.
And I think too, they're still trying to learn how to communicate.
Yes.
And I think if they get hurt in any way emotionally by someone they think is a friend, they don't know really how to talk to us about it. So they just kind of hold it inside, and then that kind of stuff just mounts and mounts.
Snowballs.
And then you got to get it out of them.
Yeah.
But it's So how do people get in touch with you if they want
the
to come out
easiest,
to
the
school?
easiest,
And
the easiest thing to do is just go to fox16.com/bullying. It's that simple. There's a request form if you want me to come to your school, if you want me if you want more information on bullying, it's all there on our website. Again, fox16.com/bullying. I've also started a monthly blog where I post twice a month just random topics that pertain to bullying that you can be a part of. If you have questions, just email me. It's all there. But it's a dialogue that needs to continue.
Yeah.
And I'm only one person, so there's only so much I can do, so I can use your help.
We need more Kevin Kellys in the world.
Absolutely.
That is true.
The other thing I want to talk about that we saw in the news and people around the country saw in the Washington Post concerning Little Rock Police Department and some questions about some no-knock warrants they did. We've got some video to show you. This was a surveillance video from a man's home who was at the receiving end of a warrant. Take a look at this. Watch his door. Blows off, blows on top of him. This is, I think, happened at 6:30 in the morning. SWAT team comes in, narcotic officers come in and begin to raid this guy's home. He is charged, I think, with a misdemeanor. That charge is later dropped. They found, I think, some scales, a green leafy substance on his carpet. Being called into question, these tactics. This seems like a military operation. Benefit of the doubt, Little Rock Police Department, SWAT guys, these guys go into situations they have no idea what they're walking into. So they want to protect themselves and everyone around them. In cases like this, though, you get a warrant from a judge generally. And the judge signs off on these warrants because you have got information that certain things are in this house. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been on a number of these things where you walk in, and I've been on some where the police department said, hey, come with us, we're doing a warrant. So they've got a pretty good idea it's going to be a good deal. Sometimes I've called friends, police department, said, hey, what do you got going on? We're going to do a warrant, wait for a judge to sign off on it, come with us. We go in there and they find drugs and guns and bad people. This got called into question because 130 no-knock warrants were issued, 110 of them for African Americans.
Here in Little Rock.
Here in Little Rock being called into question. On the face value, when you guys first saw that video, and then the backstory to it, what are your thoughts?
I mean, this guy, I do feel for him because it has impacted the way he can even get a job now. He's having trouble getting a job and even finding a place to live because of what happened that day when police stormed in there. So it's impacted his life. That's what the whole basis of the lawsuit is how it's impacted him. You know, a lot of times we see these lawsuits filed for excessive force. That's something that, you know, we see, and it's a case-by-case basis. But I guess what the Washington Post is trying to point out is this is happening more than you might realize in a department. And that department being called out is Little Rock. So it's going to get a lot of attention. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And a lot of lawmakers are weighing in on this. Everybody is weighing in on this right now in hopes that someone can do something to look into this a little more.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about the backstory on this because there's absolutely no reason for an entire SWAT team decked out in bulletproof vests, helmets, and guns to show up at someone's apartment and then blow the door in unless there is something that they have discovered or uncovered prior to this that tells them we're walking into a dangerous situation.
They have absolute intelligence that there's something extreme.
And there was a gun in the apartment, but
there had to have been something over a
the
period of time, whether it be weeks or months, that resulted in them saying this is the way we have to approach this. Otherwise, my question is what other means of operation can you do in order to serve that warrant, in order to calmly, if you will, if there was a way to, I mean, there had to have been maybe another option, unless the background told them otherwise.
Which is, and this is why I go,
a lot of manpower
I go
to
back
send
to
in.
the intelligence on these because I've been with narcotics officers. They'll sit in the room and they're waiting, or they'll begin a van down the street and they're waiting for that, you know, the green light from another officer to say, hey,
go.
Our undercover guy just went in there and just came out. They're in there. They're cutting up the drugs. They've got the money and the guns. Let's go. You know, so they know. But this seemed like he
was sound asleep in his bed.
You know, a guy would have come out, hey, this guy's sleeping on the couch.
Well, and
you could probably just knock and walk in.
To have that video to show how explosive that entrance was and all of the people going in will certainly play a big factor to see it firsthand.
And a lot of this, I mean, now the Washington Post has got it, and we're obviously following that. The city of Little Rock had a response saying that they don't comment on pending litigation or cases that are under investigation. And again, you know, Little Rock Police Department, there are, you know, officers out there and they're doing the best they possibly can to keep us as safe as they possibly can, but there will be more on that story to come.
Bigger red flag, 133, 110 of which involved African Americans.
Right. And then it goes down to the no-knock warrant, meaning that they do not have to announce themselves as police officers. 9 times out of 10, they do. They have to say, Little Rock Police, and then they'll go through the door.
Yeah.
Because, and
Right.
we're homeowners too. Think about it, your door comes blowing open. You're going to do everything you can to protect your family at that point because no one said it's police.
Right.
And once the dust settles and you can't hear from that explosion anyway, what's going on in my house?
Yeah, I think it took him a few moments to realize it was police, and he did what he would do in a traffic stop.
We haven't heard the
Hands
last
up.
of this.
No. On the lighter side of things, the Arkansas State Fair kicked off this week.
Yes.
The 79th, we love the fair. We love going out
You're
there.
fair people.
We are fair people. And we're fair-minded folks. We love taking Karsten out there, and she likes the fair. And we've been friends with Ralph Shopto, who runs the fairgrounds for a long time. And get
I love
involved
the smells of the fair.
Oh,
Most of the smells,
it's a lot
anyways.
of fun.
The corn dogs, the funnel cakes.
Do you guys have one great fair story or memory growing up?
Well,
whether it's, Kevin, I know you grew up in California.
I grew up in San Diego. We had the
San
Del
Diego,
Mar County Fair there, which was huge. But the state fair here is great. My fondest memory was a couple of years ago. It was my daughter's birthday, and she wanted to take everybody there. And as in true state fair fashion, it was raining.
Yeah.
But we went anyway,
course.
and I think we were the only ones there.
Which makes it great.
Which made it great. I mean, we had the whole park to ourselves, and so it was a lot of fun. I mean, and the food was great. I have not been to the state fair as of yet, but that is on the to-do list before it ends, no question.
You
That's
guys
right.
taking your kids to the fair?
Growing up, my dad, it was a tradition. We would drive from Russellville. It was like a really big day. We would make a day out of it.
Sure.
And every single year, pretty much every single year, we would go, and it was so much fun. Play the games. I loved it so much. And afterwards, it was a tradition that we would eat at Casa Viva, now Casa Bonita.
Oh, yeah, I
Back when it
remember
was
that
open.
place.
Remember that? I love it. So
Oh,
now I
yeah.
take my little girl, and I wish that we could eat at that restaurant because that was the best. Do you remember that?
I don't remember
One
that.
Casa Viva. Anybody
don't,
remember Casa Viva?
No,
Casa
no.
Bonita?
I remember it.
Anyone?
Yeah.
One thing, I grew up going to the county fair. I was the Arkansas State Fair Queen in 2001.
Well, there you go.
So there you go. That is my
Congratulations.
claim to fame.
Well done.
On that note, guys,
The
thanks very
picture
much.
is up.
And
Your-
the
your
pictures at the
husband
old
told
State
me.
House Convention
Kevin,
Center.
thank you very much.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for
Glad
joining
you
us for
came.
this episode of Anchors Away. We'll see you next time.